I recently watched your talk at the Leaders Summit, the Ostrich talk,
Yeah.
and you opened it up in a very compelling way where you said that this might offend people. And I immediately reached for the volume knob.
And I'm going to come up with our picture of what we think aged care and retirement living will look like in 2035. And it'll offend some of you. I hope it does.
I do like to say that, I hope it will offend, because we have a lot of belief in what we think the world will look like in 2035. But by shocking people and offending them, I think it brings people bringing their own views of what they think it will look like in the future. The first intergenerational report from Costello really said, look guys, we can't keep doing it like this. We're a lucky country. I think at that time about 0.6% of GDP was being spent on aged care, and we could afford to, subsidise people who didn't need to be subsidised. 20 years later, nothing changed very much. And so we're now in a situation where we have a somewhat homogenous, relatively safe product at the moment in the way that we deliver aged care. But the two things that are massively changing is that the number of humans available to deliver services and pay for them, taxpayers, is shrinking. And so in the future, we're going to have to spend more of our money, and nothing drives consumer choice faster than having to pay for stuff. I think the next generation of consumers, my folks, are the architects of consumer choice, and they cannot be told what they can and can't do with their money. And they're going to be super engaged in making sure that the providers are focused on the things that they love and not the disability that brings them to them.
They're the best generation to be coming through to affect change because they've got that purchasing power, they've got that history behind them, and the change is going to come from the user up rather than the regulatory framework down.
And I think we need to take our natural entitled nature to try and say, let's use the money that we have to get the best quality of care that we possibly can. At the point that this silly bit of politics continues to go on, when we're pretending that we can afford to do this beyond the taxpayer-based capacity to afford it, the sooner they can interpret that as being a rationed, homogenous standard of service for them, then they should open up and enable them to invest directly in their direct care services. Let's put the money for the people who can't afford it. And honestly, if I'm going to make it to 100, and if my kids are still hanging around waiting for, an inheritance for me when they're in their 70s, I've got bigger problems to deal with. So.